late to the party.
No worries. Welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Sister Soul Sessions, where we're elevating entrepreneurs one soulful conversation at a time. I'm your host, Britney, and I'm joined, of course, by my wonderful co-hosts, Amanda and Brandie.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. And we have a special guest.
Her journey from a young girl who loved solving problems to a recognized leader in tech and community service is nothing short of inspiring. Let's welcome Terysa, everyone.
Yes, welcome, Terysa. We just want to thank you so much for joining us today for episode 3 of season 3. We just want to give you a platform today to introduce yourself. Tell us about your business journey, this wonderful book that we have been looking into, and just a little bit about yourself. If you could give us a little intro.
Of course. So, hi everyone. My name is Terysa Ridgeway, and I'm the author of Think Like a Computer. It's a children's book designed to introduce children to computer science. And computer science is basically coding or programming or any other term you've used to describe any type of software engineering or telling a computer what to do. So I use a lot of my experiences as a woman in tech to inspire the next generation of young ladies to see if they're interested in computer science as well.
Yes. And we applaud you, yes, 100 times over. But with myself, I'm in IT, doing cybersecurity as well right now. So I was just super excited to get you on here. Reading your story for quite some time, reading a couple of the articles that you were in. I worked on a Google project myself, so I just in complete awe of you. So kind of want to go straight into that. And kind of if you can give us a day in the life of, working with Google, being, a program manager, what that looks like, with your background.
Of course. So honestly, my days are crazy these days because in addition to like writing children's books, working for Google, I'm also a wife and mom of 4. So my days start very early and very late. My days are very long, but overall, like it's summertime, so my kids are kind of chilling at this point. But our days start very early, summer camps and things of that nature. I get to work remotely for Google. I live maybe about 10 minutes away from my hometown, very small town in Louisiana that most people know it exists, basically. I have the opportunity to, one, live in my local community, but also work for like my dream company. So I feel very blessed to have that duality. But my day-to-day at Google usually starts pretty early. A lot of the teams that I work with are either in India or on the West Coast. And because I'm central, I'm kind of like in the middle of both of those. And so my days usually start just kind of seeing what happened overnight because it's like we're 24/7 at this point. But I work as an M&A data migration tech lead. So basically what that means is whenever Google acquires a company, we ensure that their data flows from their systems over into our systems now that the companies are acquired. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of back and forth and making sure we have all the appropriate information. So my day-to-day usually never looks the same. It's always different.
Especially being with Google. So with all of that and knowing your background, being a mom of 4, a wonderful wife, how did we get to being an author and Alilo, the explorer, coding robot? I mean, that scope is amazing, but how did we get there?
Yeah, it's very interesting when people ask me that. It does, whenever I listen back to interviews, it's like, wow, that sounds like a lot. But I feel like I'm finding a way to kind of merge different parts of my life into each other where it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm doing this thing, and this thing.
Right.
So honestly, even the children's book came about with like me telling silly stories to my kids. And some of those stories are not just silly, but also like serious because they want to know what things were like in the 1900s. Like you didn't have a phone, you didn't have a computer. Like, what did you do
outside?
Like, what did you do back then? So it honestly, during the pandemic, I think it like gave everybody a chance to just kind of pause and like appreciate where you were. But it was like my kids were asking all these in-depth questions. Like they can't even imagine a world where you don't have an iPad and things like that. And I remember vividly telling them the story of the first time I ever saw a computer. And like I was probably about 8 or 9 years old that I could remember. And it was, both my parents are educators, and my mom was able to bring her classroom computer home over the summer. And she literally put this thing on the counter and we had to figure it out. So it was like, that was my first introduction to a computer. But like some of my stories, I would say, I consider myself a storyteller, but they're kind of hit or miss with my kids sometimes. But this one was definitely a hit, and they would they wanted to know more and more and more. And then as I would visit different classrooms, even before the pandemic, telling that story, the kids were always intrigued by it. So I used that as a basis for creating my children's book. Of course, built some fictional elements around it, but for the most part, the character is seeing a computer for the first time and trying to figure out how to turn it on. So I used a lot of those real life elements to bring the story back.
No, that is hilarious though. You think about it. Yeah, our kids can't imagine that we were the first generation to really work on a computer. I remember that first Mac with the colored back on there, and I was telling my girls the story, and just I remember, it was so big, and there was no such thing as a laptop and all these things, and now you guys carry the amount of technology in your hand. Yep. That I always give that story. You have more technology in your palm now than they did when they first went to the moon.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, they're like, what do you mean? We're so archaic. So no, it's so interesting that you got to tie that in, and your kids really resonated with that. So you're able to align, all that you do into one thing. You're already telling these stories. Well, let's just put it into writing. And you're already coding and doing these things. So yeah, no, I love that, duality, but it's really in alignment with each other of your life and you being on that path. I absolutely love that. Sorry.
Right. Who are some of your favorite authors, and how have they influenced your writing style?
Oh, that's a good one. I hesitate to call myself a writer. Like I've written books, yes, but it's like more of stories and like building like funny elements into it. But I would say some of my favorite authors honestly are like children's books. I'll go with like some of my favorite children's books. Like when I was the age of the readers of my books, I was like heavy into like Amelia Bedelia. Like she was the funniest thing to me, and I love like seeing how she took things so literally. So yeah, I always had like an Amelia Bedelia book, the Boxcar Children, any type of thing with a series where you could kind of follow along with the story.
Right.
And honestly, like, because you asked that question, I could see the inspiration in my stories too, because it's like, even with my first book, okay, yeah, she's getting a computer, but by the second book in the series, she's starting to code a little bit, and you see her growth throughout the book. So I could see kind of like things that I liked as a kid kind of resonated in my books as well.
Okay, we call them the classics.
Yes.
That is so awesome though. And with your
actually, do you have a question, Brittany?
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. I was just going to ask what inspired you to advocate for STEM education.
I think it's something I feel that I always like had in me, because like I mentioned, I'm from a very small town, right? When I say very small, I mean like 2,000 people. Like everybody knows everybody. Everybody's basically related. Everybody, right?
Oh, wow.
So I think it kind of ties into like my background and like how I grew up. Like I mentioned, my parents are educators, but even outside of that, aunts and uncles on both sides of the family, both my mom's side and my dad's side, all in education somehow. So it's like once you graduate high school and you go off to college, you go to school to be in something as it relates to education, and you come back and you help out your local community. So I did work in my math and sciences. So initially I went off to college to come back and become a math teacher. And then part of my math curriculum in college, I had to take a computer science course. And I'm like, wait, people do this as a job. Like, it was just something that I didn't know about. So switching my major over, going into the field, I just wanted to introduce, locals in my community to like this new thing that, both my sister and I kind of found out. And it kind of went on from there. I'd say with the book specifically, when I released it during the pandemic, it was just to continue that in my local community. Mm-hmm. But my husband pushed me on that one. I printed out like a big picture of the cover of the book with the character, and we went to Walgreens to pick it up. I was just so excited that it was like a cover. And I was like, in my head, I'm kind of a perfectionist. Like, no, I need to release it on this date and do X, Y, and Z before I share this anywhere. Mm-hmm. He posted on Facebook, and it just kind of like within our family and friends, everybody started pre-ordering it and sharing it and sharing it. And it just kind of blew like way out of just my local community. And then from there, it just kind of grew, and it's still growing. I'm very grateful. But if I had to pinpoint what happened, it probably was just pushing me to kind of
shout out to your husband, being a good husband.
Right.
Push you sometimes. So
that's
just
amazing.
That support system, period. You said you were from a small town. I know my aunt, she's from Tallulah, Louisiana.
Yeah.
Newellton, Tallulah area. So very small. And going back there, as a child and experiencing that, I don't see a lot of advocates or families that, had that development, where they were pushing you to go to college, doing all those things. So do you feel like that was mainly your family that you were blessed to experience, your neighborhood? Is that something that you guys kind of band together? Or like, what was the duality there growing up?
I would definitely say it takes a village, and like, because I literally grew up in a village with like a very strong support family system, I definitely say that was the case. My parents actually, I went to Southern University in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
And my parents went there as well, and that's where they met. My older sister went there, my middle sister went there, and I'm the youngest and went there. So it was kind of like a traditional thing. It wasn't like, am I going to college? It's like, when are you going to Southern? It was always,
what are you majoring in? Yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing when you go to Southern type of thing? So it's just, I guess, what I was most familiar with, very traditional upbringing. So yeah, I definitely would say takes a village type of thing.
Yes, for sure. And, you being that advocate now, further creates that village where some don't have that in that home. So honestly, applauding you a million times over, because it's such a big thing, especially in our community, with tech and women in tech. And, I know when I started, I was on like me. Maybe there's one other woman possibly in the room. And, it was a big boys club, things like that. With you being, pushing yourself, going to Google, going through, your STEM program, standards in college, did you feel that, push or that really that pull of, I'm a Black woman in this field, I'm kind of alone here, like what did that feel like to you, that experience, and how did you bypass all of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Of course, I felt that a lot, both in the beginning of my career, and sometimes I still go through that. But I feel that because I had those experiences, I want to kind of demystify for other women. So like, that's not necessarily the case going forward. But I can vividly remember a time at the very beginning of my career where, of course, you feel like an outcast, because you are. Like, I walk in the room, it's like, okay, I am different, right? So it's like, just being truthful with yourself, and you are different. I think it was a very short time, but I always wondered, like, people would treat me differently. And I'm sure you understand what I mean by that. But it's like, I always wondered, like, are they treating me different? Because I started my internship, I was 19 years old. Like, is it because I'm young, Is it because I'm Black? Is it because I'm a woman? And I felt like I spent too much time trying to figure out what they thought of me, that, like, it really didn't matter after a while. It's like, it could be anything. It could be all the things. Yeah. But I'm not going to, waste my time trying to figure it out for them. I have work to do. So it's like, once I reframed that thought and did my job, where it's like, if you have a problem, that's for you to deal with. That has nothing to do with me.
Right.
And sometimes I still have to kind of get myself back into that mentality, but for the most part, I'm glad I learned that lesson early.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's insane that, you know, at 19 you were learning that, unfortunately.
Right.
But that is the nature of, you know, young Black women who want to go into these fields where, you know, you're kind of paving the way. And with your book, you're further, you know, showing those experiences and how young girls can kind of, you know, get that confidence to push past those limitations that others set upon you. And because it's difficult, you know, you could work there for however long. And, you know, I wanted to ask you too, because you have to do the overseas integrations and do all those things. I mean, like I said, my experiences with that, where is that barrier there for you, and how do you push past those types of things, you know, being American now, and then also those other stipulations, because they have their own view.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, how do you get past that, and what would you tell some young, you know, woman of color to, you know, get past that as well?
Yeah, I feel like everybody has their own thing. Like, it doesn't matter like the race, the gender, the sexual orientation, like everybody has their own thing. But it's like, I feel that if you focus on yourself and like kind of as I mentioned before, like whatever the job is, that's what you're there to do. Like, not necessarily there to make friends. If you do, that's great. But it's like, that's not my job, you know? So it's like, trying to limit as much as you can to get the job done is something that I found to be very helpful. It honestly, I could understand, like sometimes I talk to my friends and it sounds like it's cliche, but I truly do that. And I think it's easier for me from talking to other people because I'm an introvert and I'm a Scorpio.
She's like, so I'm already putting you on. I started thinking
well, that's not a problem for me. So but I'm also an introvert, and I do like the time to be able to focus on something and kind of just be in my own world type of thing, similar to what I did with my book. And so, like, it truly doesn't bother me as much. I'll put that little caveat in there, as much anymore.
oh, that's beautiful. Very
Well, shout out to you for being so strong.
Sometimes.
No, you're really breaking barriers, you know, and like I said, you know, not seeing many women that look like you in your position, especially where you work, things like that. Just strong advocacy. What are some of the initiatives you feel like you have going forward? Maybe even with the book, the coding robot. Where do you see that going?
Yeah. I think I want to just kind of keep pushing it to see how far it can go. I don't have any plans of stopping anytime soon. One of the things that I'm very excited, I have the little coding robot here with me, is like I'm very excited about, because it's like having a book is great because it's like you can introduce kids to computer science. You pick up this book, you would think, oh wow, a little Black girl on the cover, like only little girls want to read that. But when I tell you every kid, no matter when I do a story time, everybody is super engaged with it. Like little white boys, little Black boys, everybody like loves the book. But one thing I didn't notice is, like, I guess I consider myself somewhat of a researcher now. If you notice, the little robot has like blue things on it. And I know when I initially released the robot, the little girls kind of shied away from it. They wanted to stick with the book and things like that. So honestly, like even simple things like changing the colors of what things look like automatically pulls them in. So what I did was I worked with a company to kind of rebrand the box, put the character on the box, change the colors to pink and purple, and now everybody loves the robot. So it's like to demystify something so large with something so simple is like intriguing to me. I guess it's the engineering mindset. It's like, wow, it's like your brain just automatically clicks and says, yes, I can code because the box is pink. Yep. Like, I want to see how I can go with that.
That's amazing. Yeah, you don't even think of things like that, you know, with children and how they're going to actually accept something. Yeah. So that's very interesting. You're like, yeah, I literally just changed the color, and now like look how engaged they are with it. Right. But speaking of Alilo the Explorer, how did you even come up with this to make you know, create a coding robot? I mean, when I'm just, you know, looking at the videos and things and like what it does, I'm like, like, where does this idea come from? I get the book, yes, I, want to get into computers, but to actually create your own robot, and it teaches kids coding. Like, can you give us a little more background on that?
Yep. So honestly, it came from the request of parents and teachers. So I do a lot of story time. So of course I go in, I read the book, I answer questions, I relate to the kids and things of that nature. But then like as I released the second book and like parents were kind of following along on the series, they were saying how interested and engaged their children were and what could they do next to like continue like that building on those coding skills, like something tangible that they could do. So it's like, you don't have to tell me twice to go out on a mission. So it's like, so how do, I was like, yep, I got it. So I started looking into different ways. Of course, coding, there are lots of free, there are a lot of free applications. Like I mentioned, I have 4 children. I consider them as 2 pairs. There are 2 that are teenagers and my younger 2 are 6 and 7 years old. My older 2, when I started teaching them about coding and what I do, it was on the computer, on Scratch, building it out, knowing that I was teaching them something. But my younger 2, I literally just place this in their hand. They start pressing buttons. And then from there, you kind of figure out what it does. And I feel that's the best way to learn. Just kind of troubleshoot. Oh, if I press this button, what does it do? And then from there, you kind of see like their critical thinking in things that are not STEM related, things in their homework. They're sounding out words, but it's like they could figure out what the next word is because of the word before it. So you just see the way they think is a little bit different. So with the coding robot, what I did was I found a company that focuses on edutainment, which are things that are educational, but also entertaining, where kids are learning how to code and they think they're just having fun. I find that's the best way to learn. So I got a few of the robots. I put them in front of my own children. And I was just like kind of picking up things that they enjoyed, creating different little activities for them to do. And then after about a year, we have come to an agreement where I could rebrand their existing product, create some additional lessons and puzzle pieces and even the app. And then from there, we just worked together on this partnership to release a Terysa Salsa version of the coding.
That is so amazing.
Just amazing.
Yeah, and you have your own focus group. So I love, like you said, you have the different generations of it kind of. So that's interesting because, like you said, your younger ones, because they're the YouTube kind of generation and they're just used to like, they were able to figure out how to get on every app, So that's really crazy that, I didn't like think about, the differences there and how you engage all of those age groups.
And one of the interesting things too about like the figure it out generation is like, even when I talked about when my mom brought her classroom computer home over the summer, like you mentioned, there were lots of cards. It wasn't as easy as just plugging it in and, a computer just works like it does with these laptops. It's like you have to really figure out, okay, which card goes here and there. And it's the same thing with them. They're just figuring it out.
Right. No, that's beautiful. And I love that you got to experience that at home first and really develop it together. Like it really puts more of that family bond and like we created this together.
Right.
Yeah. It's being so
like doing activities with the kids as well. And I even took my daughter to Target today because we was going to find that book. But we will be ordering online and enjoying it. We will be sending you a video.
Please let me know.
Because she's 7 years old, so she's getting into, reading and all that fun things. And when I found out about it, I was like, oh, yeah, this is where it's at. So thank you so much for creating such an amazing thing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And please let me know what y'all think. And what I was going to say, too, is like the cool thing about them learning ahead of time is like sometimes I take them with me. Like, so they're on the floor with other kids and they're helping. So I don't have to get down on the floor.
Right.
First, so
you have your team set up. That is so awesome. Yeah, and now it's a kid actually showing you, so that's way more engaging. It doesn't seem like teacher to child. It's really like, no, let me show you this cool, fun toy that I have, and it's everybody. No,
that's what they're doing anyway nowadays. They're watching other kids play with toys and read on YouTube and stuff. Like they're actually going to buy the actual toy, but then they want to watch somebody else play it.
So yeah,
So in your opinion, what are the most exciting development happening in tech right now, especially at Google?
I'd say overall, of course, like AI. Like I feel that within the technology realm, like, I wasn't there for like the computer boom. Like I felt like it was a certain type of people who used computers when it first came out. But I was part of a generation where it's like social media was kind of just starting, and we were the first ones like interacting with computers as a fun thing. And I feel like since that time, there have been a few things that kind of come and go, come and go. But I feel like artificial intelligence is one of those things that it is the next big thing, and it's going to be here for forever. Like it's a succession of things that are here to stay, and that's one of them. And I'm actually very glad. I know there are some ways where like you could use it for bad things, but I'm glad this generation is at the forefront of it, and they're actually interested in it. Like it's not like a certain people that like it. So I feel that we have a better leg up on this route.
How do you feel about the AI boom impacting the learning experience for the next generation and kids, and how they, do school, things like that?
Yeah, I think with anything, I think it's the onus is on the parents, probably 20% teachers. But I feel that if we stay on top of our kids, we can make anything be a good thing. Like of course you could get into some bad stuff, but it's like when we were all willy-nilly on AOL chat rooms, like without any guidance. And we're okay, right? We're So I think as long as, just some type of guidance with it, I think it's fine. I think it's still important for kids to learn those basic skills, writing, reading, and being able to do those things on your own. But it's like, it's also important to know how those things work. So I feel like if we prevent them from even like engaging with it, I think we're doing the kids a disservice.
Right.
So I think it's up to parents, no matter if you're in the tech field or not, to just understand what's going on so that we can protect our children, but also don't stifle them too much.
Right.
Right.
With tools that you're providing, at such a young age, I feel like that's a great introduction to, understanding, hey, this is what the wave is. And it teaches the parents, like I love that you stated earlier, the parents were the ones that were kind of like, hey, well, how do we keep doing this? Because I'm sure for them, that's, them learning as well. We kind of started with the MySpace thing where we had a little bit of coding, and our generation, they just use something and hey, I just wanted to send in 5 seconds. They don't really know how it works or the background. So I love that you're bringing that up. At such a young age. Are there any plans to have any like workshops like nationwide where we can, have STEM, type of learning things, just trying to throw that out there.
I would love to. Honestly, this summer was the first time where a camp, well, it wasn't a STEM camp, but they hired me in to kind of develop a curriculum where I taught 2 different age groups, 1 hour each for the whole summer, like each Friday. And I actually really like that.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to think of ways where I can develop a curriculum so that I could do more of that, because it was so good to see, like, it's one thing to see your own children like be engaged or do a story time and see the kids at one time doing that, but every week seeing them grow and still being interested in it. Like, I don't know, I feel like it did something to me. So I feel like next wave is definitely there.
Already? All right. I love that. I'm excited to see where that goes.
Right.
Yeah, that is really the future. And, having those programs, like I said, especially in our community where we're bringing, the fun to, this new, AI, like I said, it's really taking over already, but, yeah. Like I was talking to somebody about ChatGPT today, and it was just like, wow, it's insane that this is what I'm explaining now when I could just write this out. But so having that background knowledge and understanding those tools early, and I definitely hope that you roll that out and that bug continues to bite at you. Because let's get that going. Yeah, we definitely need more programs like that. and the character that you've created is amazing and just so cute. Yeah, all of the little girls we're showing, we're just like, oh my God, I want that. Where's the doll? Where's the stuffed animal? I'm like, yes, we do need to get you the stuffed animal.
So crazy. Like, well, if I had some time, I literally just I got a stuffed animal made because it's some plans I want to do with it, right? I got this sample made and I just got it in the mail today, and I didn't even think to bring it here.
No, beautiful. I'm so happy to hear. I know you're going to be doing amazing things because this robot is, I mean, how high tech that you made this already. I was just so watching all the videos and the kids really enjoying it. So I definitely want to make sure, B, if you could just throughout, we're putting in links for ways for people to purchase the book, This Robot, and just know a little bit about Terysa as we continue. I just pin that because we've had a few people ask how do they get the book, so and the name of the book.
And I'll throw in some links for you to pin.
Yes, for sure. So what problems do you feel like think like a computer actually solved for you?
Ooh, how deep do you want to go on that one?
No, please go. Sister Soul Sessions. We want to go deep.
Okay. So honestly, when I started writing, I was not in the best mental space, right? This was late 2019, right before the pandemic, when things were getting crazy, but it wasn't necessarily crazy yet. I literally lost my brother-in-law, who was like a brother to me. And 10 days later, I lost my mom. And it was like the combination of the both of them was just like so overwhelmingly difficult. Like I said, I'm an introvert, but I mean, in the house, had no reason to go out, you know? I could tell something was different with me. Of course, I know I'm grieving, mourning, all of those things, but I just know I wasn't in the right mental space. And I think I'm just kind of one of those people where as long as I know I have a problem, I can get out of it. So it's like I started writing. Like, of course, you know, I love my family. I love my children. You know, they want to see me smile again. So they're asking all these questions. That could have been where the questions was coming about my childhood. Telling them about those things, I ended up starting to write them down. And I was like, ooh, this feels good. You know, like it started to feel good in a very childlike way. I kind of feel like it gave me the opportunity to write this story about my family being together, how I remembered them being. You know, like when I was 16 years old, I lost my father. So now I have no parents. But it's like when I'm writing, like we all exist together. You know, we're celebrating birthdays and things of that nature. So I thought the healing part was writing until the world opened up and I was able to share that story with kids and kind of feel their joy in hearing that. So it's like I was like, okay, thank you, God, for getting me out of that dark place. But it's like that was just the beginning. And I feel that like just every time, like even today, today work was rough. Like just being honest, work was rough. Kids are great, but it was time to go to bed. Like it's 8 o'clock, you know, it was just kind of one of those days. And I'm like, oh, I have to be ready because I have this interview and I do want to share, you know, the stories and things of that nature and not be in a gloom. So it's like, whew, let's get there. But as soon as I start talking about my book, anytime, it doesn't matter how dark my day is, as soon as I start talking about it, I light up just automatically. So if that's the personal piece of it, that's kind of what the book, it was healing for me to write, but then everything after has just been through the roof.
Just abundant on top of that. Yeah, you never know, you know, why you're being brought to something or, you know, how you're going to get out of it. But I love that you got to experience, it looks like your parents again as well. So thank you for sharing that because, you know, with your parents being educators, like you said, you got to go back there and remember all those things, put it in there and how you learned with them. So no, thank you for sharing that and for sharing it in your work. Because yeah, that's definitely how a lot of other people get out of it. And especially young girls, young boys, reading these stories, you know, I feel like that will definitely resonate. So thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, that is amazing.
I got deep, girl. You're going to have us crying on Sister Soul.
Yeah, I was like,
but like you asked, like it's no other way I could answer that question, because like that's truly where it came from. I don't usually go into that, like especially with kids and things like that. But it's like when you ask that question, it's like I don't know how to answer that any other way.
Yeah, and that's the realest thing, you know, to put into your work, who you really are. You know, that's why it was able to come out and continues to be abundant, because you didn't stop at, you know, where that hindered you or where that hurt you. You used it, and you know, that's what I want everyone to really take away from it, because you never know why God's bringing you to a situation or how you're going to be seen through it. But using that and actually following the path, like it, you know, like you said, it just continues to grow, and you continue to get to bring your parents and your family into, you know, every room when you get to talk about this. Right. So yeah, that is amazing.
And now you have 3 new sisters. So whenever you want to cry, whenever you want to talk, just chime in with us and we got you. And that's another thing I love about Sister Soul Sessions. You come here and just be free and just release, because you never know what somebody is going through. You know, we put on this face and this character for the world, but behind closed door, like you said, we really be going through some stuff. You had a rough day at work today, you know, and I hope it gets better. We will be praying for you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, I'm sure it's been rough just this week with Google, but we won't go there with that. I'm sure you had quite a time, and that's why we are so thankful that you even got to join and tell the story, because I imagine that your day was quite hectic.
One of those days, definitely.
It's one of those days. But, you know, you get to push on and share something that, you know, is more, not more important, but definitely important after you put in that time with someone else's dream. You got to really, you know, continue to share yours and what your family, you know, brought to all of us. So I want to continue to praise, you know, your parents for instilling this in you and making sure that you had such an amazing story to tell. Because, you know, like a lot of people, you know, don't have that type of upbringing. And even, you know, those that do, they don't get to share the way that you have. And I absolutely love that you found a way to get through it like this, because we're all greater for it. So yes, you know, that's really hard to lose both parents in the world, and feeling like that a support system probably that you grew up with.
Yep.
You know, how do you find that again? So with those tragedies, you know, you finding your way through the book, you know, do you feel like you get to still bring them in with you? Is your support system still there, you know, in that way with them?
Yeah, I would definitely say so, because one of my sisters that I was talking to, and oh Lord, I went through a lot. Pandemic was a lot. I ended up losing my older sister right before the book, but I'm just gonna say that even talking to my middle sister about things, because we're the only two, you know, left, basically, like everything that I was familiar with kind of just in the blink of an eye was gone. But I told her every single time I do a story time or any type of event, there's always something that's like meant to completely throw me off the rocker. Like I'll go to a story time and I'll see my mom's best friend in the parking lot. Like, I mean, literally, like as I'm going to the story time. Or, you know, I'll meet somebody that like literally like, okay, I can't do this because this happened. But it's as soon as I open the book, start reading, and like it just automatically, it's just something. And there's no other something other than God and my parents and my sister watching over me. Like it literally could be nothing else.
Yeah. No, amen to that. It definitely, yes. And that's why you have to continue, because as you see, like, no, we're behind you, baby. We still have you. And, you know, God's really seeing you through every time. But because that's really important, like you said, every time you're about to do this and, you know, share that glory, like that's where everything wants to stop you. Like today, you're probably like, no, I've been fine all week until today when I wanted to share, you know, and do an interview.
Yes.
So yeah, pushing past that, you know, that block that is trying to hinder you from your path is so important. Because when you start doing it, like she said, obviously you're in alignment and all of that goes away. It will dissipate. Just continue, you know. So yeah, that is amazing that you're saying that, because that's the hardest thing. you could have easily been like, look, I'm sorry, you guys, I had a day. It just, by the time, by the time you guys wanted to go live, that's when my day just stopped being crazy. Like, so thank you.
For a second, just 1 second.
We truly appreciate you, pushing past every time and sharing the story, because it really is a blessing. And honestly, is a small testimony for each time that you're telling it to these kids, and you're planting the seed that is definitely growing into something more, not just for yourself, but for them. Yeah. So that's why you have to continue and push on. And, I hate all of the loss for sure, but they are definitely with you. You can tell. You can tell.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
No problem at all.
You are welcome.
I didn't know it was going to get that deep today.
Because, we definitely like the story behind it, because, as entrepreneurs, a lot of times, how hard you got to go. You got to, stomp the pavement. You have to do all these hard things. But where do you get to sit and be like, well, how'd you guys do it? Or, hey, I just need to tell somebody, like, I just need to scream somewhere. And that's why we kind of created this. We saw that a lot of times people were falling short or failing just because they didn't have the support system or somewhere to be like, hey, iron sharpens iron. We're right here with you. And your story, like it does with children, it's going to help another entrepreneur, another author, someone who was like, you know what, I wanted to get into coding, but I didn't know it was that easy. I didn't know you can make a robot by doing, so yeah, we definitely want to share a story like yours in particular, because it shows you, it doesn't matter the small town, the loss, the imperfections, the thoughts of, I have kids, I have a husband. Look at what you accomplish on a daily basis. So again, Miss Ridgeway, we are just so very honored to have you.
Here to give you your flowers, beautiful.
Yes, because you truly deserve it. You are really doing some amazing things with your book and the robot. So we want to make sure that we are pushing that into as many eyes and homes as possible. So thank you so much again.
Of course. Thank y'all.
Yes.
And did you drop the links in the? Okay,
I did.
So we have
directly to her website, as well as to purchase the book on Barnes & Noble. I wasn't able to find it on Target.
Yeah, Target.com. It's available. And the robot is
out, girl. Congratulations, because we looked and it was empty.
Yeah.
Right.
okay. That's a good problem.
Right.
I'm gonna have to check.
It is. I told my sister, I said, girl, I'm at Target. The book is sold out.
She went to 3. But
I said, Black Girl Magic, she did it. We got to go to Barnes & Noble tomorrow.
Okay.
But that was amazing. My daughter she was so excited.
Yeah, if you order on my website, I sign all the books. I don't charge any extra that I sign it. I write a little note, hopefully just to inspire kids. And what I think the biggest goal I want is to just demystify like what you think a computer scientist or a software engineer looks like. It's like I find that everybody can use their varied experiences to like do great things. And especially if you think about something like artificial intelligence, you need as much diverse thought as possible so that these things are inclusive. So if I could do that through creating a pink box for a robot, I'm gonna create that pink box.
Thank you so very much. And our season 3 is about fulfilling the mission. So I just have one other question to ask. With your book, your endeavors, what you have going on, how do you feel like you are continuing to fulfill your mission, and how can we assist to make sure that we continue to fulfill that mission for you as well?
Yeah, I think it all ties into legacy. If there was one word that I could come out the pandemic with, and like one word to describe my business, is just like, what are things that I would like to leave this earth with? It's like, what is my legacy? And if I could get more women, more Black girls, more Black women interested in tech, I feel that I fulfilled the mission that God wanted me here for. So if I can do that, if you guys can help me with that, I would appreciate it. But honestly, I'm just truly just enjoying the journey, and wherever God takes me with it, I'm just along for the ride.
Yes.
Oh, well, that was sweet. Let me go tell my girl. Y'all need to get in the text. Right. Let me go tell my girls right now. I got you.
is the future. So definitely, you know, you guys do have an avenue and someone that is really paving the way to get our young children into tech and computer science. So please continue to follow. We have included all links and we will pin, we have pinned, thank you so much, all links so that you can follow her, continue to see her journey, and of course where she will be, because she does do, you know, live readings and things like that. So please stay tuned and follow Miss Ridgeway at Terysa Solves It. And let me see. Okay, I'm just reading. Finally.
And once you start your workshops, FYI, we live in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay. I spent a lot of my
please.
there.
Wow, we'll create something at this point. We have enough girls in the family already.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely. And I just want to, in closing, to give Terysa some of her day back. Just want to thank her again for joining us for a wonderful episode. And again, follow Terysa Solves It, you guys. She is on IG and all platforms. Her links are pinned there in the chat, so please go ahead and purchase. We are so excited that she was able to join us today. I am Brittany, your host. If you guys want to do your closings.
And I am your co-host, Amanda Armour.
I am also your co-host, Brandie. And I thank you so much for your time. And thank you, everyone, for supporting us.
Just have a wonderful night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.